Okay. It's just
Are we on
you're
video?
not in it. You're not in it.
It's
Just
okay.
recording.
All right, so the first thing to know is that don't take any of this ultra seriously, because we keep learning more,
Okay.
and
True.
we don't really understand, like, I already told you your brain is really unusual,
Yeah.
and so we don't know really what all of that means completely yet, which is why when I showed it to one neuroscientist, I thought, oh, I gotta have somebody else look at this.
So you did have someone else.
Yeah,
look at it.
and he
Okay.
said have someone else look at it.
Really? What?
So whatever these analyses show, the first thing that I want to preface it with is this is compared, like all of these analyses, they're compared to what's called a normative data bank, which means that it's compared to other brains. Well, you don't necessarily want a brain like other people's brain.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, since we're in Hollywood here, we see lots of, people who are, maybe they've won Academy Awards or Emmys.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, like one in particular who was an actor who, is very, given many awards in his craft. He showed like really severe trauma markers, which we told him don't treat because it's helping you in your profession. It's helping him win these Academy Awards.
Stay creative.
Yeah. So, and to be able to be sensitive to pain and get into it and express it on
Yeah, that's true, because they can relate to something within themselves.
So, so you have a very unusual functioning, which I believe. I mean, I've always not been exactly accepting the orthodoxies of the field, and so far I've done good by that, because as we get more research, it, what we understand expands.
Yeah.
So you have an unusual brain. So one thing that we see in your brain is it looks like you're smart. Now, what does that mean, smart? Smart's such a general term.
True, because you can be smart in different ways.
Yeah. So there's something called the sensory motor speed.
You've told me about
Yeah. You're really fast.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you're taking in a lot of sensory information.
Yeah. Which
more than the average person.
Interesting. I thought I might be slower.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, you're fast. You're running fast. And so, the challenge when you're running fast is to be able to organize all that information, because you're taking in more information than most people.
That makes sense. Yeah. I could feel that.
And one of the old orthodoxies in the beginning, when people first started seeing this, they're saying, well, maybe we should slow them down. And I was always like, no, we just got to get it in balance. So speed up and strengthen their frontal lobe. And now that's more of the thinking now in the field. So this is all a prep for you have a lot of mu waves. I mean, it's constant across the record, just throughout the record. It's mu, 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 space, mu, 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 space. It just goes throughout the record.
And that's not.
That's not. I've never seen anybody have as much mu as you.
So weird.
Yeah. So now, what does that mean? Well, nobody really knows completely yet exactly what it means. So that's why I don't want to, what they look at, they've studied, there's something called the mirror neuron system. I don't know if you've heard of that. It was actually discovered here at UCLA when they were doing MRIs with monkeys, and they saw that the researcher went to pick up a cup of coffee to drink his coffee, and the monkeys were hooked up, and they saw the part of the brain, the motor cortex part of the brain, that would have signaled, of the arm and the reaching and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff lit up in the monkey. And so
Oh.
that's how mirror neurons first started getting discovered and explored, that there's something in our brain that imitates the intention of others.
Interesting.
So then people started studying that to connect it. Does it connect to empathy? Does it not connect to empathy?
So the monkey got the mu waves when he saw
No,
the
the mu waves come when the mirror neuron system is disengaged.
Okay.
So when the mirror neuron system is online, there's no mu.
All right.
So it's a disengagement that happens.
I see. Okay.
So
And it's like, where is that focus going? Maybe. In a way?
well, it's kind. I mean, that question hasn't been asked. It's just more like something happens where there's a disconnect.
I see.
So in particular, the mu waves are across the sensory motor cortex, right? And the reason why I'm being really, really cautious with you, and I want other people to look at it with you, is because you're like a yoga person, and so, I don't know
How that correlates.
yeah, if there's something. I mean, I've seen other yoga people, but you do yoga, I think, more than any yoga teacher I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do quite a lot of it.
Yeah, so I just want to be really cautious about interpreting what it means. In typical, people think of mu as a disengagement from the frontal lobe. It disengages the mirror neurons. It quiets when you're actually moving.
Oh.
So is one cause or is one effect? Did you already have all this mu and that's what attracted you to yoga, because it stops the mu propagation,
yeah.
that mu rhythm? Or is it something, I mean, this is where I have to go and keep going higher up the ladder.
It kind of makes sense with my draw to sound baths and theta waves as well, maybe too, and yoga and the movement. Maybe I'm trying subconsciously to alter those waves into something else.
Usually people are attracted to, how their brain is functioning.
Yeah.
You're going pretty high. I'm going to show you how fast you're going. So it makes sense that you'd be attracted to slowness.
I see.
To more slowing down, because I'm going to show you. And I'm going to give this to you, so you don't have to take it. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, you can
Oh,
show
no,
it to you.
actually, I guess I could. Well, we'll see. Just so I know what we're looking at when you're talking about this part.
Yeah.
Okay. You can go on if you want.
Okay. So these maps right here, this is compared to everybody else's brain, basically, approximately your age, etc. So if it's green, here's the key right here. If it's green, it means you're just like everybody else. If it's blue, it means you're making less of those waves than everybody else.
Oh, wow.
And if it's red, it means you're, 3 standard deviations above the mean. Like you're like way up there. So
there's a lot of blue over there.
well, that's so this first line is just how much you're making of these particular waves compared to other people.
Okay.
So what you can see in these 2 spots, which is where we look for the mu waves in particular, it's on fire. It starts making a little bit more, in the very, very slow region, it's fine. It's completely what everybody else does. Then as it starts speeding up a little bit into theta, theta's slow, but it's faster than delta. You start seeing like a little bit tiny more. And then here is where we really look for the mu, and this is the mu right here. Look at that. It's just like smack. It's like, whoa!
Yeah.
So I look at that and go, WTF.
Interesting.
And then you have it even up here in the beta, which makes me wonder, how much of this is something else.
Yeah. You mean something else
as in yoga or something like that.
Okay.
That's my question that I will be asking to the next person.
and then
And this particular neuroscientist that I'm going to be asking, she does a lot of yoga people.
people with my
with your type.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay. But then it goes away in high beta.
Right. Believe me, you would not want that there in high beta.
That's really scary. Okay.
So this is now, if you take the energy of your brain and look at how the energy is shared only within your brain. So this isn't compared normatively anymore.
Okay.
So in your brain, you can see that the slow waves, there's just a deficit. That's why it's blue. That's what
Yeah.
we call blue brain.
It's a blue brain.
It's a blue brain in the slower waves, which is why you may be craving more of that. Because, when it comes, and here we go again, most of the energy is going to that sensory motor area, which may make sense because you're in the field. But the fact that they're mu waves, not just that energy, but it's that type of energy,
Mhm.
is what is thought to create the disengagement in
Yeah.
the neuron system. So how does that impact things? Well, here we're looking at the different networks over here. And, the red and blue lines indicate whether the networks are hyper-connected, meaning if they're hyper-connected, it means, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That middle one looks crazy.
It means that it's too rigid. So when one thing does something, the other thing does something. And so the tasks aren't being shared
Okay.
among the brain.
Yeah, it's not like being distributed well in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you want the brain to be able to do different things at once so that it can put together like a task. If everything's kind of communicating the same thing, then the local neurons aren't adding the information that should be added.
Okay.
And so
This is so crazy.
you've got both a hypo and a hyper coherence, which means it's both rigid and chaotic in there. And the thicker the line, the more strong.
Yeah, because those are pretty thick.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, all of this is probably due to the mu waves.
Okay.
So the thing
That's
is
correlated.
almost everything that is happening in your brain could be explained
Mhm.
by these excessive mu rhythm that your brain is constantly doing. So it's simple,
Yeah.
but it has, numerous effects.
I see. Yeah.
Here's
Crazy.
a look at it closer. This is compared to other people, and you can see now we're looking at
That one. So what is that? Or sorry.
So this
go
is
in your
not.
order.
This is just. You can see what it is. It's breaking down these bins, the alpha, theta, beta, all of that, into a little bit smaller bins. So
Okay. I
so
do see that.
yeah. So so you can see here in terms of like 10 to 12 hertz is see alpha goes from 8 to 12 hertz,
Mm-hmm.
but it's 10 to 12 hertz where you're showing all that preponderance of
Mu.
yeah.
Okay.
But then again, you get that popping up at a high beta, really, from 18 to 25 times per second. That's what a hertz means.
Okay.
Now let me show you.
See.
The same thing here. When we look relatively how your brain is sharing the energy at 21 hertz, boom, look at that. It's just like, it's sucking up all the energy, basically. It's all going to that.
So that it's all going to my sensory.
To your
intake.
left.
My left. So what's the left one? What's the difference between the left and the right?
The left controls the right part of the body.
Okay. Okay.
So and you also have it in the left too, as you can see,
Yeah.
but you just have more in the right.
More in the right.
I mean, I'm sorry,
More
more on the left.
More on the
Yeah.
left. I getcha.
So,
Which one are we at? There's so many.
yeah. It's just taking another look at it.
Okay.
Because you never just want to look at one slide, you want to take it from all different angles.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. You can see how it's on fire here. This is your left, and here it is. You know, this whole area is just
What's the name of
fire.
that area again? It's called
the top part is the sensory motor cortex,
Yeah.
but you also have it in your parietals.
parietals.
Yeah.
Okay. To look that up.
I have it all written down for you.
Yeah, perfect. So wild.
So I wanted to show you. Here, this is it. So if we look at the individual networks to see like where is it being impacted mostly. So these are, the BA stands for Brodmann areas, which are regions, they're types of cells that are in the brain that are part of a network that you have in the brain. And so, you know, what it's showing is that on your left side, again, there's a lot happening on the left there. There is some anxiety, actually quite a bit of anxiety.
Okay.
And there's some attention that's impaired, which you expect with mu waves, which that's commonly how we, one of the things we expect with that.
Okay.
Your default mode network is also impacted. And so that's like the resting state network of the brain. So when your brain is resting, it's not resting in the typical way. Let's just put it that way.
Is it resting with the anxiety still there, you think? Or
yeah, there's like a restlessness. I would call it more a restlessness. And there's some executive functioning impaired, which you would expect with the attention. Your mood is actually fine. I know you said that there was that history of depression, but I was wondering, because of this, I mean, this is only taking a snapshot now, but I was wondering a lot of times, like one of the things you ask for with depression is if it's primary or secondary. And a lot of times depression can be secondary. It's actually, you're anxious so much and there's nothing that can be done with the anxiety, so your body kind of breaks down into a depression.
I see. So
And
it's anxiety first and then depression is the
Yeah.
byproduct.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that would be true with you, but it's not picking up. It's picking up a propensity, a vulnerability to anxiety and depression. But at the moment when we tested you, it was impacting more of the anxiety network than the depressive network.
I mean, that's good. I've always wondered, if any type of depression would show up in my brain, but maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, and I need to focus more on calming my anxiety rather than trying to lift my mood. You know, and when those situations happen. So that's interesting. That's great news. That's good news.
And here you can see your mirror neuron network is just really impacted there.
Sorry, what does that mean again?
The mirror neurons is when you're mirroring what's going on in the outside world.
Okay. So, does that mean I'm not receiving it correctly? Okay. Interesting. How is my memory?
Oh, you know what? I didn't actually test it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I was like, that looks like a little beautiful structure. Why is it so perfect?
Yeah, that's why I didn't.
That's why. Okay, no problem.
But your pain network is activated.
Pain network. Okay.
So it makes me wonder, you know, the most parsimonious explanation for this, the simplest explanation to weave all this data is that if you're in a lot of psychic pain, you're not going to be able to mirror other things going on in the world very well because you're in pain so much, which could impact your attention.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And create anxiety, you know. No, what do you want?
Should I let him out? Or come here. Come here.
All right. What do you want? I know, you know, when he does that, it really, that's his way of telling me that he wants food. But
Oh,
go
really?
ahead. Yeah, he scratches the screen. Go ahead, go out there.
You want some food? Oh.
He has to be trained.
That's what they do. That's what they do. They train their own.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, you don't want that treat? You're too good for it? Is the need
He just likes to pretend.
He's just Sonia is disappointed because these are the cheap treats.
That looks like a good one.
It's just made to look that way. Yeah, so that's
so maybe my mood is fine, but I'm experiencing that psychological pain that I'm perceiving as depression in a way, or is it more of a physical? I wonder what that is, or why it's triggered.
why what's triggered?
The pain here on the left, and I wonder what that's coming from.
That I can't tell you.
Yeah, would that be from It's interesting, because maybe that's what I'm perceiving as depression. Is that possible?
Do you feel like you're depressed right now?
Not in this exact moment, no.
How about
But
when you were doing the test?
I was having a slightly off day. Yeah. I was feeling a little more towards a sad mood than a happy mood, but not too far into a sad mood.
So if we look here, where is it? Okay, so for pain, it says BA5, BA4. It's basically BA5 is the worst one, and BA3 on the left side. So, show you where that is. Here we go. So right over here
Oh,
and over here is the worst.
okay. I see, yeah.
I mean, were you in any
Rental
physical
loan.
pain?
No.
Okay.
No physical pain.
Okay. I mean, this is an area of mood and, what was I going to say?
Parental lobe. Perception, visual.
So it's an area of mood and emotion.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So yeah, so that could be what you're feeling
Maybe.
bad about.
Yeah, that's, or maybe I'm just like perceiving stuff incorrectly.
Maybe.
This looks like a little gas.
Yeah, it's kind of just another way of looking at it. So this is looking at it across the left and the right. So this is it's going to give a little different thing because it's averaging it.
Okay.
Whereas what I've shown you before is more specific. It's breaking up the left and the right. And your, biggest issue is on the left,
Okay.
as you can see. Oops, come back here. So you can see, the right will pop up, but the left is always
lit.
Yeah.
Always lit with those mu waves.
Let me see. Hang on. I also took some notes. Let me get my notes here. Oh yeah, one question was to ask you, like in terms of analytical thinking, like how would you?
I'd say I have to really try harder than others when I need to like focus and figure things out and like make decisions or read a book or make things happen. I do think I probably have to put in more brain power than normal people. I have to really push myself.
Yeah. So, because one of the as I was looking at your map, like I wrote down, is she fidgety? And that's why I asked you that when I saw you, because the brain looked like you would be fidgety, and also if you were having difficulty with analytic thinking.
Yeah.
So let me just answer that in my notes. Yes.
Yes. And when you say analytic thinking, what is your primary example of analytic thinking? I
Just
guess?
where you take something and you break it up into pieces, you kind of deconstruct it in order to kind of figure it out, and then you can put it back together again.
I see. Yeah, I would find I had difficulties, and it reflects the most in my decision making, where I try to break stuff down in the different options and then put together what option I want. And that becomes really, really difficult to see the final picture. So I've always really suffered with that when it comes to making personal decisions with an analytical view.
Okay, since how long would you say?
Since I was little, for sure. Probably started more so. I guess in high school, but I didn't really have too many. Well, I had a hard time learning how to read in elementary school. I almost got held back in kindergarten, and then but I didn't. But they put me in special reading classes that I was in for a few, like 4 or 5 years, because it took me much longer to learn how to read than others. And then my grades were pretty bad in elementary school, and then once I hit 5th grade, they got better. I got pretty much straight A's, but I was getting really bad grades when I was in elementary school. And then 5th grade, they got better, but I would say I've struggled with indecisiveness from 16 on, once I kind of stopped relying on my parents as much. Or my mom as much to help make decisions, and I've known that's always been a weakness of mine. So I ask my sister a lot for advice.
Decisions, a big part of decision making is in the frontal lobe, and if you're disengaging so frequently, even just moments, it's like these little tiny micro interruptions, then it's going to be hard to access all the power that your frontal lobe has.
Yeah, to make that decision.
Also the other thing that it showed is that in your frontal lobe, you are making a lot of alpha, which is, a slower wave. It's and especially in your left, when there's so much alpha in the left, that is correlated with a vulnerability to depression.
I see.
Do you have difficulty falling asleep? I think I asked you that before.
I don't.
Right?
I don't.
Because you would kind of
I do at certain times.
Looking at your brain.
I do at certain times. It's not always perfect, but I wouldn't classify myself as someone having difficulty falling asleep. There are nights where I have to take a melatonin and...
that's nothing.
Yeah.
This is just the medical way to put it, so I have to put it like that. Okay, so when you were in that disturbing state, did you tell me what it was that you were thinking about?
Yeah.
What was it?
I was
Oh,
thinking.
an argument? It was an argument?
Yeah, an
Okay.
argument.
Because it's kind of interesting. I've seen this many times before, but your mu actually decreases when you're disturbed.
Interesting. Wait, what does that mean?
That your frontal lobe stays more engaged.
Oh, so I become more engaged with my environment when I'm disturbed?
Well, your frontal lobe is online, which allows you to be more attuned to your environment, to the external world. Yeah.
Weird. Weird. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Also, your alpha speed increases too, and when you're in a disturbed state. I've seen a lot where people, can be either really anxious or really, something, and then when they get under stress, their brain just kicks in.
So my brain was almost maybe a little more normal in the disturbed state,
Yeah.
you'd say?
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's like that's, wow, that is interesting.
When you got happy, the mu returned,
Oh.
and you were
That's so
making more alpha again. So, but you were resilient. Your brain shifted pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was good.
That is good because I wasn't sure. I did have a hard time switching, but I did get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely felt those elevated.
Yeah, you got there
emotions.
nicely.
Okay.
The only other question I had when I was looking at your brain was if you experience, what we call, do you know what brain fog is?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I kind of lean on caffeine. 'Cause that will help, which I try not to have caffeine every day now to combat the brain fog.
Okay, so in terms of attention, like the normal kind, when people have attention problems, they talk about something called a theta-beta ratio, which is a common type of attention where your frontal lobe is just slow, right?
Yeah.
And you're making too much theta and not enough beta. You didn't have that. That's not, any attention difficulties that you're having is because of the mu. It's not because of the slowness.
Okay.
It's not because of too much theta. It's not like we have to reduce the theta or anything. You're on fire. You're going fast. You're just constant of these micro intrusions that happen.
We gotta find out what the mu is. So the mu is fast. No, the mu is disengaged.
It's disengaging, yeah. Yeah, it's interrupting.
But otherwise, my brain's moving fast, but then disengaging.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You got a fast click there. You got a fast alpha. It's on fire.
That's so weird. I really would have.
Does that explain things, or? I mean, you do have a vulnerability to, depression. What am I looking at?
Yeah, why would you think my moods are so extreme? Just because of that little vulnerability, possibly? I'm like kind of riding a wave sometimes. Like today, I feel very normal and great.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if something happens, I really get low, and it'll take me a while to get out of that. And or even if sometimes nothing's happened, but I haven't really been in that depressed state in a while. But I wonder what that contributes to, or if that's part of the mu or something like that. Or it might be the pain brain, the pain bio.
It's hard to tell for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, what I would suggest is that you fix the mu.
Yeah.
And then see if all this other stuff just falls into place.
Mm-hmm. And how would you go about fixing mu waves? What does that do?
So you would do that through neurotherapy. Like you might do a little stim and then try to, really stim is the best way that we know of so far to do it, because when you just do you know what neurofeedback is?
that the one that you were saying does little pulses?
No, that's neurostim.
That's STEM.
That's
so
the
then I
STEM.
don't know the difference.
Neurofeedback is when you are looking, these days there's like video games that you can look at, and you play the video game by you yourself changing your brainwaves.
You did tell me that. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't heard of anybody successfully changing mu through neurofeedback, because neurofeedback is primarily, it's not looking at the shape of the wave, which is what mu is. It's looking only at the frequency of the waves. So you might be able to make more other waves, but you still could be making the same type of, the same shape. So, but where I have seen success is with the neurostimulation. And
how does that process work when you're trying to treat mu waves with that?
So, so there would be like little electrodes. Like here's some electrodes.
Yeah, I remember you told me.
Yeah.
But do you have to think certain things
No.
when you're doing it?
No.
Okay, so literally it's just sending a certain electrode to your certain areas of the brain.
It's sending a different type of electrical pattern. It's like your brain is kind of stuck making certain types of electrical patterns. So it sends a different type of electrical pattern. And then your brain starts kind of riding those waves.
Crazy.
Yeah. So what I have here is that if you wanted at some point to do treatment, this is, what you should tell the practitioner of what you want, of how they should do it. And that you're not going to understand what that means, but those are just kind of technical notes for.
And for treatment for stuff like this, is this something that needs to be done like for such a long period of time before any changes happen? Since it's kind of like rerouting your thought patterns. Like how long would this type of treatment take, I guess? Or is it kind of a lifelong thing?
Oh no, not at all.
It's not a lifelong thing.
No.
Okay.
Mu is a little tricky. It's not terribly tricky, but it's a little tricky. It's not like, I just laid that up. So it's hard to say, but I think I'm trying to think, like if I would recommend something for you, I think what I would recommend is that you do this with a specific type of psychotherapy that helps you modulate the emotions to stay more stable.
Yeah.
And to tolerate them more so that we can get your frontal lobe online.
Yeah.
While it's reducing the disruptions from the mu. That's what I would recommend to you.
Yeah.
I think that you would notice some pretty significant change in about 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, but when you do the neurotherapy, it has to be at least twice a week.
Twice a week, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so, and then when people do that treatment and, you see the significant change, do you have to worry about relapsing from, like, your own habits? Or is it, like, once your brain gets on track, it'll stay on track?
Neither.
Okay. You just kind of don't know.
No, we know.
Oh,
yeah, we know.
Okay.
Generally, think of it like Pilates.
Okay.
Like you go and you strengthen those little tiny muscles along the spine, right? So now you're sitting up straight, and when you're in the world, you're constantly exercising it without having to go back to Pilates all the time because you're sitting up straight. So now when you're moving those little tiny muscles. It kind of self-reinforces.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you trip or you get into a car accident or something like that, you have to go back and kind of get realigned again.
I see. That's a great example.
So once your brain starts functioning the way it's supposed to, you'll feel it, because it'll just be like like the brain will know this is where I've been trying to be, you know, and it's gonna want to stay there on its own.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be trying to strengthen into that space of alignment. Yeah. Crazy.
So
I had a question like a minute ago, but I can't remember. That's pretty wild.
yeah, I would suggest both with you. I think that would be that'd be a great wham bam.
It's so interesting. And what type of therapy? Like with the stem, but what, like, because I know there's different kinds of therapy. Do you think like somatic therapy is
Somatic
best?
therapy is good.
Okay. Because that's what I've always been recommended from.
Somatic therapy is more, if you just go to like something called SE, somatic experiencing, it's more like a technique that can be involved in other types of therapies. I haven't been very impressed with people that just do SE, because it's just like just using a technique. If you don't have like an overall system
Change in the.
It's just not as useful.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, but some sort of treatment that does include somatic, techniques.
Would be
Definitely.
helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I guess I need to think about if I want to change my brain. Crazy. And because you do this type of treatment as well? See. So people typically just get a brain scan and then start this type of treatment. And, okay. See, I've never known anyone to do this. That's why it's kind of like as far as I know, I've never known anyone to do a stem treatment.
There's probably, in LA, there's probably people that do this type of stem. There's probably like 10 people.
Yeah.
So it's not like a lot.
Yeah. Very few.
Yeah. And in the country, there's probably like maybe 500. You know, it's not like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's funny, in some parts of the world there's more, you know, than here.
Yeah. But this type of stuff isn't part of like normal health.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But it will be.
Yeah. It's interesting that it's not like part of a normal health routine. Like if someone is having a mood disorder, they wouldn't be sent to this by their doctor, or would they go to this after they've exhausted all of their prescriptions and stuff?
You know, for a long time, probably for like 30 years, we would always read that, you know, psychiatrists are the only MDs that don't look at pictures of the organ they're studying.
Exactly.
And that started changing, you know, recently because of this work. So now a lot of psychiatrists and neurologists are getting trained in this.
Yeah.
And they're teaching us and we're teaching them, and you know, and so that's changing now.
Yeah.
But the field is still, you know, it's still in research labs across the country. And on average, it takes about 10 years before this research translates into the public domain.
Yeah.
And it's been over 10 years now. So that's why it's in the public domain now. But for insurance companies, I don't know how many decades it took insurance companies to recognize some of the most basic treatments.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, it just takes a long time. It takes
Are
decades.
Are any insurance companies starting to pick this up? Or it's a few, or depends?
No, they'll pick it up.
They will.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if mine would. I'm on like a really shitty one, so.
Almost all of them do, because it gets coded as a psychotherapy with these kind of, with technology.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's psychotherapy with technology.
Okay. Crazy. I guess I could see if mine would take insurance, or if my insurance would take it. And see if that works.
I mean, with the,
is insurance bad for you or good for you, or does it make a difference if someone?
it doesn't make a
It
difference.
doesn't make a difference.
No, but, Natalie should have sent you the codes in one of the packets.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't look at it. See, I've never even used my insurance yet. I just got it like a couple weeks ago. So it's like LA Care. So it's.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it. But I can send this to you.
Please do.
And I'll copy and paste the treatments just so you can take it kind of around here. I'll put it in this.
And for the stem, would that be like an hour of just like brain stimulation? Is that kind of how long it is, or?
Well, it's done simultaneously with the psychotherapy. So for yours, let me just put it right here. Just include it right here. Actually, maybe I'll include it above here.
And would that be something you would do?
I could do it. There we go. So what I recommended is that a certain stem is done for 15 to 20 minutes, and then it's switched to another type of stem.
I see.
Here, let me just send this to you.
I really do wonder what all that new is from. If it's always been there my whole life.
It sounds like it may have always been there. So,
But it's not a result from any, because like I said, I don't think I have any trauma, so it's not from any of that. It's just kind of how my brain developed, I would guess, right?
yeah, I mean,
Because there
yes,
weren't any
probably.
trauma markers.
I didn't see any, except that your parietals are a little hot. So, I didn't.
You told me what that was.
I didn't see any though.
Okay, I
I
really
didn't see
think
any,
so.
nothing stood out.
Yeah, I just always wondered. I was like, have I forgotten something? But I think that was just me trying to figure out my brain.
I mean, there's different kinds of traumas, you know.
But I'm not bipolar.
No, I didn't see any of that at all. But like I said,
I watched this TV show actually the other night when you texted me called Modern Love, and it's the girl from Princess Diaries. What's her name? Anne Hathaway. She's bipolar in this episode, and oh my gosh, it is so emotional and so scary. You have to watch it. It's just like, that's where I watched that, and it was when you texted me saying you needed the morning off, and I was watching this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because I'm like, I'm not like that bipolar if I am, but I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
She was extreme.
But there may be some like early childhood attachment issues.
Yeah.
You know, and some people, that's why I said there's different kinds of trauma. Some people may call that a kind of a trauma. But it's a word.
Yeah.
You know, what really matters is how the brain functions. But that can all be helped.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the good news is there's one thing that glares that, you know,
Yeah,
stands out. And if you
true.
treat that, it could be like everything else will fall into place.
Totally. Yeah, no, this is so insightful. Thank you so much.
You're
Like,
so
this is like
welcome.
literally a miracle. Like, it really is. Like, to
Well,
have
I want you to
insight.
keep it because as we learn more about the brain, it can be reanalyzed.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, this is something I've always wondered about ever since like I read the bell jar when I was little.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I just always wondered about my brain and how I was thinking, how I was functioning, and just like hearing about all those crazy treatments, and I'm like, it's so scary. I've just always been curious about like, what are my thought patterns and stuff like that. So,
where do you feel like you are like on the empathy scale? Would you consider yourself medium, high, low?
I think I can cue into it and cue out of it in a way. Like, I can sometimes choose to disassociate, or like, I think it was 2 days ago, I saw like this car wreck at the end of the street, and it wasn't even that bad, but I like stood there and I looked at it, and then like after like a minute or so, then I started to kind of feel a lot of emotions from it, and I was like, well, I'm feeling too much, I'm gonna walk away. But it was interesting because it's almost like, at first I was looking at it, just trying to figure out what happened, and then I felt an overwhelm of empathy. But I don't know if it's all the time. I think I can kind of decide whether to feel it or not. Is maybe my experience. But I would say sometimes I can't control it, but also I don't know if it's empathy or if it's just like sometimes when I walk by like a homeless person, I'll feel a lot of sadness, and I'm like, why did I just feel that? But also, is it correlated to empathy or not? But you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's really scary situation for them to be in. So, what did it like look like?
Huh?
What did the empathy like level?
Well, just this, you know, the thing is with the mute, it kind of interrupts all of that. So when you say sometimes yes, sometimes no, that would be consistent with how mu is thought of.
I see. Yeah.
You know, there's a big debate about how much it really has to do with empathy or not, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. That's why I'm trying to be cautious in my words. But there is a group of people who, you know, do look at that as kind of interruptions in empathy.
Yeah, totally. Interesting. So maybe that could actually be a good thing sometimes, instead of being so empathetic all the time. Because I don't know if I'd want to feel everything.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You'd be terrible at everything you did, probably.
Yeah. Because, you know, it's kind of good to recognize, okay, this car wreck happened, and to keep a clear mind, but then sometimes to slip, like, I watched for like a minute and then slipped into that mood of like, my heart started to like get all tight, and I was like, oh wait, why is this happening? So then I walked away.
Yeah.
I was like, before, just a moment before, I was just like bystander, trying to see what was going on, if everyone was okay, and then it switched to almost as if I knew them, and I'm like, okay, I don't know why I'm feeling that, I'm gonna walk away now. Like, it's like I got too involved all of a sudden. So
yeah, without any kind of release to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
But you know, Paula Bloom does a whole thing on the downside of empathy and how you can't be a good parent if you're too empathic because you can't punish.
Yeah.
So you can't train your kids.
It's hard to protect yourself.
Yeah, you can get too overwhelmed.
Your boundaries are run over. Because I do have a hard time with boundaries and like putting other people before myself a lot. I do have issues with that. But I don't know if that's related to empathy or analytical thinking.
Could be more to empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
This is so much information. No, it's so good. It's so good. I like need to like redigest it all in a way because it's just so much, and I want to understand everything like you told me fully, even though, you know, obviously things can always change. But
yeah, now we have the baseline.
Yeah, this is so good.
Just go this way.
Where's he go? Does he just hang out outside?
Oh.